Oh, well, hello, my baby gorillas. We're back in business on Blue Star. And what have we got to talk today about? Sex. Yes, let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. So here we go. We'll come to sex in a bit. Or the lack of it, as the case may be. And we'll try and look at political reasons and policies why this is happening and the people who are connected. How's my baby gorillas getting on? Hello there. Hello, I know you're watching me. I can see you. Pop out. Let's get the pop out chat going. Hello there. Hi there. Well, let's have a wee laugh at the Labour Party's expense, shall we? Here we go. Oh, here we go. This is absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. Are we? Where can I? Oh, there's Georgie Porgy. So, Georgie Porgy says the Tories are George Galloway 20 points ahead, Conservatives 44% up 1, Labour 34% down 2, so they're 10 points ahead. Liberal, undemocratic Democrats at 10%. I don't believe these polls. Up 3. Greens down 1 at 4. And Nigel's UK Reform Party is sitting at 3%. So very, very interesting stuff. 20 points ahead. I don't know who's 20 points ahead here. But let's have a wee look at this. I don't know if you guys seen this. It's been in some of the other channels today. Let's have a wee look at this. This is absolutely delicious. That's from the Scoops. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I think there's a better one. Down here. Oh, here we go. So this is Keir Starmer and a pub landlord. So obviously the leader of the Labour Party, and this gentleman here is a pub landlord.
He's 82 years and 3 months.
So he's basically correctly pointing out that we're all locked in our house, for the average age of death from COVID is over the natural death rate, so it's 83, which is over the death rate. I think the natural death rate in the UK is 81. So he's rightly pointing out that this pandemic is actually killing people over the age of the natural death rate, which doesn't really make any sense to have us locked in our house for a full year.
The average age of death normally, 81. Do you understand?
And obviously, Sir Keir Starmer was on the Trilateral Commission with committee with Jeffrey Epstein. So he's part of the globalist. The Trilateral Commission is part of the globalist cabal, the non-governmental entities who are dictating to us what we can and can't do. The policies are not coming from the bottom up. They're coming from cabals of the globalists down to us. So this gentleman's completely correct.
We have fucked our economy because old people are dying. Do you see this graph? The last time we had this much death was 2008. That's the British Medical Journal. No.
So again, like Sawar, when I was asking them questions, they just ignore you. Now, the politicians are paid to answer questions. They're being paid by the public purse. That gentleman there is the employer of Sir Keir Starmer, and like Sawar, just ignored, didn't answer any questions. They feel that they're above the average person. They're not there to be addressed by the likes of you. Obviously, Starmer's a multi-millionaire, and for the working class, obviously, just as obviously so is Sawar, which I'll come back to in a minute.
No, I came here to speak to this man, not your security. You have failed me. Thank you. I've been a Labour voter my entire life. You have failed to be the opposition. You have failed.
Yeah, somebody's trying to say that they should be voting against Humza Useless and voting for the Labour Party, which I think is just the devil in the deep blue sea. I think you should change your votes and vote for the Scottish Libertarian Party and Humza Useless's seat. That even if he doesn't get it this time, it will start to wear away. The problem is the Labour Party and the SNP is two cheeks of the same arse.
Failed to ask whether lockdown was
there's a
functioning.
car just behind. Can we just...
Do you understand?
Can we
go in?
Thousands of people have died because you have failed to do your job and ask the real questions. Well, I am telling you now, and I hope this goes out, you have failed this country. You have seriously failed. You have allowed...
This is almost like the incident with Gordon Brown when he was disparaging, when he was mic'd up and he was disparaging about that nice lady down in England. She seemed very reasonable, very nice English lady, and Gordon Brown was disparaging these Labour Party who are meant to be representing the people are just so arrogant. They're just so rude and arrogant. They can't even speak to. I mean, he's getting chastised, and he's not even speaking to this gentleman about the issues that he's trying to raise. And maybe Starmer's hands are tied. You don't know from the globalists, and then they're tying his hands. We don't know that. But this gentleman who's the owner, it seems very nice guy. He's just putting his points politely.
Our children to wear masks in school when it's never been any evidence for it.
Guys, that car here, can you that car through, please? Do you want to come on in here, Mum? Go on in, sir. They've been on the front line of the life, so I really don't need lectures from you.
Oh, he's saying how arrogant. Oh, I don't need lectures from you. That's what. Well, Sarwar wasn't as arrogant as that, but that's certainly a common theme amongst the Labour, that they think they're above themselves, multimillionaires. Oh, I don't need lectures from the likes of you, who you've actually not even backed him up. You've held him in his house, not let him open up his business, and you haven't, as the opposition, even opposed Bojo and the Tories actually doing this as well. For a pandemic that this gentleman's pointing out that is killing people who are over the natural death rate from your own statistics, that 25% of the deaths weren't actual deaths.
You've got one.
Can we come in? Okay.
So that's part A. So this is part B.
My pub. Get out! That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Get out of my pub.
Sorry, can you keep out the way?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I can't That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub.
This is the Gordon Brown moment in politics. This is exactly the same thing. This guy seems like a nice enough fella.
Go on. Calm yourself down. Get out of my pub. Calm down.
Sorry, can you keep out the way?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I can't That man.
So, as you can see, what are you guys saying to? Hello, hi guys, hi Marion, how you doing? What's up, Anyway, alright Davey, hi John, how you doing buddy? Morning everyone, hi Terry, how you doing? Alright Davey, hi there, Rickton, I like that, that's great. What about the Glasgow sex party to increase the birth rate in Scotland? Fantastic Terry, I hope you're hosting it. Have you failed me? Have you failed me? Hi there Bernadette, how you doing pal? Good to see you all, my baby gorillas. So, this guy seems like a nice fella. I quite like him. Oh, and here we go. There's the gentleman here. Let's see what he's saying.
Because there's a second video.
This is Talk Radio.
Now, what happened when he tried to enter the pub? Because there's a second video, which is just as big as the first, in which I would suggest you impersonated Peggy Mitchell very, very accurately.
Thank you. Yes, I was deeply unhappy about him entering my premises. I had introduced myself as the landlord and I'd had a go at him, and under the circumstances, the least he should have done is asked, and he walked in and I went after him to eject him. We will not serve him. He is not welcome in the Raven. And yes, his security grabbed hold of me and restrained me, and he left.
Obviously, you've mentioned the physicality of it. There are some allegations that there was a scuffle, that perhaps you pushed somebody that was with Keir Starmer. Do you have anything to say about that, Rod?
No. All I did. There was somebody.
Just lie. They just lie about people. Just make things up. I mean, how naive is she? How naive is she?
I did possibly jostle them to get past to get into my pub, but I did it politely. I'm a peaceful guy.
Have you heard Keir Starmer's comments since that first altercation and when you threw him out of the pub? Have you heard what he's had?
Oh man, I think this is the death knell. Hartlepool looks like it's going to go Tory, which will be a disaster for Keir Starmer as well. And we are losing all the seats in the North and the Midlands in England. The red walls and just a brick now, never mind the wall.
Had to say?
I haven't, no.
Okay, well, we'll get you a tape of that very shortly and we'll play it out. But just coming back to this idea that...
they're trying to blame him. He's within his right to tell Keir Starmer to get his pub.
Suggested that, you don't think there's a pandemic, or perhaps you don't think there's a pandemic. Do you think this is part of the problem, that if you dare to focus on the impact of lockdowns on people's lives, the non-COVID death toll, that somehow, according to Keir Starmer and his ilk, you're a bad person or you're a bit of a loony?
Well, we know that the globalists are using this, don't we, guys? That's something.
It is possible, but again, I'm not politically partisan, or it's the madness and stupidity of this is plain to see. Yes, and we do need to talk about it. Obviously, we need to talk about it. We need to deal in facts, and that's, in my opinion, part of his job.
Yeah, indeed. So, why wouldn't you serve Keir Starmer? Why is he barred from the Raven?
Because me personally, he's failed me. He's failed this country, and he's failed me, and he is not welcome in the pub.
What are your feelings about Boris Johnson, of course, the author of this lockdown strategy?
Not. I would have said exactly the same to him.
Rod, how has...
And in fact, anybody that's voted for lockdown is not welcome in this business.
Seems like a good guy. I like him already. So let's see. I really like Mr. Oliver.
To an extent, and so because
he is absolutely fantastic, spot on. But I don't think I think he has just thought my rights will be preserved in a Scotland that is becoming increasingly authoritarian. Because I think we're both on the same page. What's his name again? Him. Yeah, Neil Oliver. I knew he'd get it. So Neil Oliver, lovely fella. So I think Neil is similar actually to me, and he's quite centrist in his politics. He's just a nice fella. He always does great shows, but I think he's became complacent. Not mentally complacent, I mean politically complacent, in the fact that he thought, well, we're always going to have a liberal democracy. There won't be any people who will come over and challenge it with other ideas which may be authoritarian. And I think this is what has actually happened to him just now, that he is actually coming to the realisation that there are authoritarians in the country who are basically corrupting it, and it's starting to sink in that these people are not the best people, like wee Nippy.
Because of devolution, the First Minister...
This is on trigonometry.
Here, Nicola Sturgeon has been able to plough her own furrow up to a point, or to an extent, and so there have been different dates about when we would open this or close that, and if you were allowed 6 people, we might be allowed 8, or there's been variations almost just for the sake of variation. But as a place to be, as a place to live now in 2021, Scotland is a sad and angry and frightened place with lots of people full of dismay and apprehension about what the future must hold.
So I would say what the Nicola Sturgeon will get re-elected, she will get a majority, and I would suggest what the future will hold is more incompetence from Nicola Sturgeon. There's the Get Humza Useless Out. This is actually at Humza Useless's Pollock constituency. Humza says you've had a bit too much to think. Get Humza out in Glasgow Pollock. A lot of people are voting for the Labour Party. I would vote for the Scottish Libertarian Party. I understand that I think the Labour Party are just as bad as the Scottish the whatever. It's just two cheeks of the same arse. I wouldn't vote for either the Labour Party or the SNP, and I would vote for, if I was in this constituency, even though they're not going to win, I would still be voting both votes for the Scottish Libertarian Party because they're in a different part of the political compass just now. But this guy's doing a lot of good. This guy will follow him, this fellow here.
The British government was to reject the request, the demand for a second referendum, then it would be saying that there is no lawful democratic path to achieving Scottish independence. Well, that's completely wrong. As we keep saying in our articles, the route is for the SNP, if they wish to seek a mandate for a second referendum, then they must stand as abstentionists at a British parliamentary election, and they must get a majority of seats and a majority of their electorate that way, and that will be sufficient for them to demonstrate that there is a demand for a second referendum. But unless they can do that, then they cannot use elections to a devolved parliament, that is, elections to a devolved arm of the British Parliament. They cannot use elections to that.
So obviously that's from the unionist side as well. I'm balanced and give both sides as well. So
we're going to get this false history in the bin.
obviously the Greens and the SNP, the fake Scottish National Party, are now wanting to feel guilty about something that the vast majority of Scots weren't even involved in the slave trade. So there was no, as far as I'm aware, there was no slaves in Scotland either. So I don't really have any sort of guilt, but they're using that to push the globalist agenda and the open borders malarkey that wee Nippy's trying to put through. Oh, we're just anybody comes here and drinks whiskey and Scottish. But I'm the member, I'm the leader of the SNP. Enough of that. So what else have we got? What was I looking for there? Oh yeah, I know what I'm looking for. So there's Humza Useless. Rape suspects can choose to self-identify as female. So if you get rape ladies, then you can identify the alleged rapist will be able to identify as a woman. And then I would suspect be able to go to female prisons. This is Humza Useless's great idea.
Scotland, Scottish Scotland, the independence, independent Scotland, Scottish Scotland, Scottish Scotland, independence referendum, second referendum, Scotland, the people of Scotland, independent people of Scotland, Scotland.
That's quite funny, I didn't know I'd put that up. Oh my goodness, where am I on my chat thing, mate? So, where are we? Well, this woman keeps banging on about Ramadan racism. I don't know if she's talked about the children that were being molested or raped and forced converted back in Pakistan. I'm not sure if she covers that sort of thing. Obviously, Islam is a theocratically totalitarian and fascist ideology, political ideology as well. Unfortunately, they've got Azam Quasir Javid is one such woman trying to balance her job as a modern studies teacher with fasting, trying to win over an electorate ahead of a by-election next month. Doesn't really tell you anything more than that. Said something about I get hangry. I don't know what that means, but I'm still campaigning. But candidate. Well, it's self-imposed hunger, isn't it? On the day the Prophet Muhammad, who was a mass murderer, child molester, a polygamist, warlord, advocated the raping of women. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I'm not even going to mention the camel urine. So. Here we go, and find out more about the economic plan. Our economic plan will deliver lower taxes and a simpler tax code, meaning more pounds in your pocket from the UK Reform Party Scotland. But what was somebody's put a breakthrough? You shouldn't be causing violence through the Scottish Liberal Democrats window. You should be able to speak about your ideas in a rational manner. Scottish Government in meltdown, SNP torn apart after humiliation. I think this is what I was looking for. This is Reach Group plc and the Daily Express. I think the Reach Group have quite a heavy monopoly on publications. Scottish Government in meltdown were torn apart for most humiliating climb down. The SNP have come under pressure from their broken promises as Nicola heads into the Scottish election by Charlie Bradley on the 19th of April 2021. So this is absolutely... Now, if Nicola Sturgeon was being judged purely on her track record in the Scottish over the Scottish duration of her term, it would be an absolute disaster for her. Because if she didn't have this independence malarkey to fall back on, and she was getting judged purely as being competent or incompetent, she would not be in Parliament. She has not been a competent politician.
I'm keen, in the interview to look back at your record in government, because it really matters, because you're effectively asking the Scottish people to trust you to lead an independent Scotland. So it really matters. You're clearly an exceptional communicator. You're clearly somebody who has strong approval ratings relative to other politicians. But if you look at the facts, record drug deaths after 14 years of an SNP government, still inequalities in education, although you admit that in some areas there's been improvement, there are still big inequalities when it comes to education. The highest rate of care home resident deaths from COVID in the UK. Why should people trust you to lead an independent Scotland?
3,000 allegedly care home deaths under Nicola Sturgeon's, and the highest, well, I'll try and get this up as well.
Sorry, Sophie, the number of care home deaths in Scotland is far too high, and it shouldn't be.
Because of your policies, because of what you've done.
A statistical competition, but
it's not a statistical competition, it's about your competence and what you have actually done, put in place through your policies. You've done it. You did the thing with the drug deaths. It was your fault. You have to take responsibility.
I really do have to challenge that. The number of excess deaths in care homes in England has been much higher.
It doesn't matter. The fact is, stop. That's a bit of whataboutery. What have you done? What was the policies that you brought in that caused these deaths?
Than in Scotland, or higher than in Scotland. In Scotland, we have recorded more of them as COVID deaths. So I will challenge that. But that is not saying that it is not the case that the number of COVID deaths in care homes, the number of COVID deaths overall, hasn't been too high.
I mean, it's just one excuse after another for incompetence, isn't it? I mean, really? Yeah, why is this just spinning around? Come on.
Trade costs between Scotland and the rest of the UK would increase 15% after independence.
Now, it should be noted that we do, there's Fandy. Fandy speaks in 2012 about how the UK helped bust Scotland. It should be noted that we export more to the rest of the UK than we do to the EU, multiple times more.
Independence in an optimistic scenario, or 30% in a pessimistic scenario. Are they right, those experts?
I'm not looking at the report that you're talking about there, so I want to look at that in detail.
So
if it's the report, I think I recall, it was a very, very narrowly based assessment, and it didn't take account of the wider benefits of independence to Scotland's economy. Now, what you've got to remember...
You haven't got your own
well,
costs, though.
Look,
if you're going to undermine theirs, surely you should have done the maths yourself.
With the greatest of respect...
Well, he's not wrong.
I'm not undermining it. You're quoting things to me that you've got in front of you in an iPad there right now that I don't have in front of me.
Let's see what Andy says.
Stick to that. I would just point out that the original Act of Union in 1703 was actually a financial bailout. Scotland was bust, had lost a third of its national wealth in the abortive Darien adventure in Central America, and it meant that Scottish merchants could not trade because of the Navigation Acts with the growing English Empire, and that the money came in to bail out Scotland. So whether it would be able to do the same again is another matter. So I think that all of these lines he's taken, I could go on, and a number of these, strategically, they are it's a very sensible way to go. Tactically, it opens up huge weaknesses. Because if you're going to have a common monetary union with Rump UK, if you accept, which means you can't set your own interest rates, you don't control the money supply, you may not have a lender of last resort, and you accept that you will also need some kind of fiscal stability pact with Rump UK, then frankly, in economic policy terms, I cannot see the difference between that and Devo Max, where you stay part of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're going to come in, because we'll be putting forward Devo Max as well. So Andrew is a great political commentator, look on Fat Andy. He is a brilliant commentator and correct on that as well. That would actually alleviate, get more powers to the Scottish Parliament, but stay in a monetary union with the rest of the UK, and we'd be outside the undemocratic EU. So that would, everybody would be a winner on that situation, especially in Scotland. So I would suggest that Devo Max is probably the ultimate best way, and certainly in the medium term, to go within and stay within the UK as well. So I would suggest that that's probably beneficial. So listen to this, absolutely. They put out this racist nonsense, and I'm not sure if it's racism to this woman or racism to white men and or both, but they put out this, and I mean, really, honestly.
I'll leave you to get on with the ballistic. You need to really back yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know how confident a straight white man would be right now?
Yeah, I know.
Think of Boris Johnson and how pleased he'd be with himself right now. He'd be like,
Sorry.
nailed it. Sometimes we have to think like these men.
Yeah.
All right? I'll leave you to get on with the listen.
Thank you.
Think like a white
Like
man.
a nice woman.
Yes.
I actually like her as a comedian, but yeah, I mean, they're obviously pushing the narrative. Oh, here we go. So here's Keir Starmer making his apologies for being rude to this publican.
Well, we shouldn't have had a lockdown. Well, look, somebody approached me, and from what I could understand, he profoundly thought that we shouldn't have had a lockdown, that we shouldn't have restrictions.
Well, he's not wrong, is he? He seemed like a nice Republican fella.
And I'm not sure he really thought there was a pandemic. He's entitled to that view. I profoundly disagree with him. And I think the vast majority of people in Bath and across the country will profoundly disagree with him. He's entitled to that view. Some people do take the view that we don't need restrictions. I don't.
Yeah, we all do.
I don't, because I've seen the number of people who've tragically lost their lives from this virus.
What, the ones that are over 81?
I don't, because my wife works in the NHS. I know the impact on her hospital of the virus and how close it was to being overwhelmed. But, you know, he took a different view. I profoundly disagree.
And so
Well, and here's what's happening in Canada under Turdo.
Look at what he's doing.
Old gentleman.
Look at what he's doing.
How's this guy
Look at what he's
doing?
doing.
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
Look at what these cops are doing.
Fucking paper!
They punched this man. This officer, Herbshash, was kneeing him in the head. They're breaking his balcony.
Okay. Where do you want me to leave then?
This is an old, frail man that they're doing this to.
Stop resisting!
Look at what they're doing to
Stop
him.
resisting! Oh, fuck! Put your hand behind your back! Oh,
Look at what they're doing to him.
fuck! Put your hand...
This,
So, I haven't been paying a great deal of attention to the Floyd murder. I always, not the Floyd murder, sorry, the George Floyd trial. And I think, having briefly seen bits and bobs, I think the police officer is going to get away with it, because I think there's probably probable cause for doubt there. And I don't know what that's going to do over there, but I would suggest that kneeling on the back of somebody's neck's probably not a good idea. Even to restrain them, I don't think that's probably the best idea. I think there's been another incident over in America of a white guy dying because of this. So here's Wee Willie. Here, what are you guys saying? Wee Willie. Hello, Oliver. Thanks, Marion. There, I was looking for that. Terry Ann's redacted it. Humza, the biggest racist about Davey. Yeah, that's right. So here's Wee Willie.
Offer that Ruth Davidson tried.
So remember I told you that there is virtually no political difference between Ruthie Baby, who is a Christian Democrat and part of the globalist cabal, and liberal, undemocratic Democrats. These are the neoliberals going into the Social Democrats. It gets more complex because now we've got a Liberal Party and a Social Democratic Party, and we don't know if these are the same parties that joined to actually form this, who the guys are, if they're part of the neoliberal cabal. So that means like the right wing of Labour and the left wing of the Conservative parties and the Liberals. Now we've got the Social Democrats that cross over there, and we've got the Liberals where we don't know where they are. I mean, as I said, I'm a Libertarian Liberal, which is in a different part. It's in the lower part of the I believe in individual freedoms. But we don't know where all these guys are. So that whole neoliberal space is all got tons and tons of parties now, about 5-6 different parties that either are in that space or cross over to the space.
Today,
so Wee Willie here is going to be a sycophant for Ruthie Baby, and Ruthie Baby is obviously, which I'm going to come on to about the birth rate in a second, but wee Ruthie Baby has obviously disappeared down to the House of Lords to get her £300 a day, and poor Willie is going to miss her obviously, and is now saying about right wing, where the illiberal, undemocratic Democrats are one of the last parties I would vote for, and not really any difference between the Lib Lab Con party anyway.
we are making a direct appeal to people who backed Ruth Davidson in the last election. The Conservative Party is changed.
So obviously, Ruth may be part of the problem as well as Willie. These people have been in power, and they might be the underlying issue. Why have we got a declining birth rate?
Out has gone the previous leadership, and in has come Boris Johnson and Douglas Ross.
My jury's out with Douglas Ross. I don't know if he's good, bad or indifferent. I've not really seen enough of him. I don't think he's been incompetent. He's not done anything that's been outstandingly incompetent so far. Not to say the heather in fire, but he's not been incompetent. Obviously, I would say that Murdo Fraser's probably a more substantial politician. However, I don't think he's done anything incompetent. Ruthie Baby was obviously quite a good orator, and she was quite good at holding me Nippy to account. Obviously I would destroy Nippy. That's why they'll try and slander me and not actually debate me, because they know they'll be in for basically a gubbing. They'll just not even talk, or they'll just shout daft words to try and mitigate having to answer questions.
They are not the centrist, moderate offer that Ruth Davidson tried to sell at the last.
Don't forget the illiberal, and democratic Democrats are a corporatist globalist party as well. They just wanted to overturn the referendum. They are completely bought and sold by the globalists as well. They're following the globalist agenda. Whereas us libertarian liberals or classical liberals would not be wanting, we would want the empowerment of the individual, not a supranational, transnational body and moves towards the one world government.
Last election, they've moved further to the right. It's a darker party.
I would suggest, being a centrist, obviously I would suggest that the worrying thing is not on the right, but it's on the left. The major issues that have happened in the 21st century, whether it be communism or national socialism, that have killed hundreds of millions of people between the two of them, even fascism, which is also on the authoritarian left. I would suggest that it's these concepts that we need to A, teach our children about in school, and B, that I would suggest that it's the left that's the issue, not the right.
Deliver Brexit.
I know that they try and paint the National Socialists or the fascists as on the right, but no.
A pandemic. So I've come across lots of people who are disenchanted with the Conservative leadership.
And want to vote for the illiberal, undemocratic Democrats who apparently have had the brick through the window. You wonder sometimes if they do them, not to be too paranoid, if they do it themselves, if you know what I mean.
Looking for a different home. They can find a home with the Liberal Democrats.
With the illiberal, undemocratic Democrats. I believe that the Liberal Democrats have actually done something liberal and are actually opposing the vaccine passports, I think.
I've got a broad offer, progressive offer, for an open internationalist country that's
globalist, not internationalist, globalist. I'm an internationalist. They're the globalist party, so you've got to watch their terminology and be able to actually work out what they're actually saying. Willie Rennie is a globalist, not an internationalist. He may be an internationalist as well as a globalist, but he's definitely in the liberal or bought and sold by the globalists.
Gentler. That's looking to invest in good public services.
But he's also
country that's gentler. They can find a home with the Liberal.
But he's also saying they're progressive, which makes me think they're pandering to the postmodernist Marxists.
A broad offer, progressive offer, for an open internationalist country.
But he's also talking like wee Nippy, being progressive as well. So everybody's wanting to do the postmodernist Marxist malarkey, open borders still by wee Willie.
It's gentler. It's looking to.
I don't want something that's gentle or not gentle. I want something that's competent. I wouldn't vote for you, Sawa, Nicola Sturgeon, wee Moby. Or even Mr. Ross on your policies and on your competence.
To invest in good public services to make a difference for our country. But
that doesn't really mean anything. That's almost like education. So you're going to invest in our public sectors, specifically what? What is it that you're going to do? Or are you just saying these words? It's almost like a mantra, not actually giving us any specifics, but just saying generalities that don't actually politically mean anything, haven't got a significance. That's why people tune out, because you just come out with these vagaries and there's nothing substantial underneath to actually for people to actually hold on to from a political point of view. And the populace tune out. The populace shouldn't tune out. They should just vote for somebody else that doesn't have these vagaries.
First of all, to put recovery first.
How are you going to do that, Willie? You've told us absolutely zero about how you're going to do that, wee Willie. Nothing. How can I make a political decision on anything you've just said there? But what's my baby gorilla saying? What about the strategic voting to get the SNP out first? Well, you're still going to be voting for the Lib Lab Con Party then. So you're not. I wouldn't. But I don't think it's going to happen anyway. I think what it's looking in constituency list is that the SNP are going to get the vast majority of seats, and I would be voting for parties both like Dancup and Motherwell and Wishaw, both for the constituency. I'd be voting for the Scottish Libertarian Party on the point of principle and on the policy and on just a fuck you to the actual political establishment. I wouldn't be pandering or even voting tactically. I would just be saying, screw you, we're going to vote for a whole different part of the political compass, and we're into our own freedoms, and I'm not interested in voting tactically. If you keep voting tactically, you're just going to keep getting the same 5 asshole parties in, unless you make a conscious effort to say, right, screw you guys, we're going to vote for another party. Only at that point will you get a different mentality and a different way of thinking coming into the Scottish Parliament. The Recover, they should stop imposing and threatening to impose lockdowns. Yeah, we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be getting lockdowns. No, they're all horrific. That's correct, John. They are all horrific. Are there any MPs that you fancy? Being sexually? I'm not sure what you mean there, Terry. That actually find sexually attractive? Is that where we were going with that conversation now? Or do I fancy on a political sense? Any MSPs that I fancy? Now you made me think that I actually find them physically attractive instead of actually the fancy as in the think are good. There's a lot that have actually left as well as MPs, so there's a lot that have actually gone as well, so there's going to be a whole raft of other probably non-entities and not very useful MPs. I think they're actually dumbing down the MSPs so that they can be manipulated easier, and I don't think the people that are coming through actually recognise how politically non-entity they are, and the motivation behind the players, why they're actually bringing in these sort of political non-entities. Get George Marvellous Hat in Hamilton. When is this going to happen? When is Georgie Porgy in Hamilton? Are there any MPs you fancy? What about strategic voting? He is a complete beta too. The misandry from the SNP is reducing the buttery. That's right, and that's something that women have to take on board, and I'm going to come into that in a second about the birth rate. So just give me a second. So there's it's okay for the Labour Party and this woman here, the Rotherham Advertiser, MP who retweeted abused Rotherham girls need to keep their mouth shut abused Rotherham girls need to keep their shut their mouths for the sake of diversity. So it's okay for Muslims to rape non-Muslims, and Naz Shah says that they should just shut up for the good of diversity. I would suggest that diversity may not be working then, if that's what they're actually doing. There. So the Scottish Libertarian Party oppose the COVID vaccine passports as well. And this is obviously 3,400 care home deaths in Scotland, but at least they're being looked at by the Crown Office. like Nicola Sturgeon with a Pinocchio nose. Oh, there's a whole bunch of guys just coming over for the war-torn country of France, let in by obviously the Conservative Party. So you obviously can't trust the Conservatives. How do I cancel my TV licence? Do I need one? Well, I've not got a TV licence as well, and I'm far more entertaining than anything's on the box anyway. So Alex has said that he wants a Norway-style relationship with the EU, which is quite interesting. Our misogynistic elites hate women. Yeah, so it's certainly the Islamist ones. So there's Lawrence Fox. Certainly Islam hates women as well. It's very, very misogynistic. Wants to cut off the clitoris and put them in bin bags in the desert as well. I met a lot of Arabic women. I love them. I thought they were great. So, German spy agency says ISIS sending fighters disguised as refugees. Look at this. Man wanted over double street shooting. The suspect is also wanted over 11 cash delivery robberies. Oh, this is quite a good one.
Candidate in Lothian for All for Unity. As a lawyer, I have a natural interest in...
So this is Georgie Porgy's, one of Georgie Porgy's mob. This woman seems quite intelligent, obviously, as a lawyer. She seems she seems quite intelligent, but I mean, you don't know how the political depth. I mean, they're just correctly parroting the correct talking points, but you don't know what their political depth is.
Justice issues, but I have watched in horror as the SNP and Humza Yousaf in particular have desecrated our once revered legal system. Recent events with the Alex Salmond inquiry have highlighted how fundamental tenets of Scots law, like the separation of powers, the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, can be eroded so quickly when power is placed in the wrong hands.
Yeah, Humza useless.
To put a man like Humza Yousaf in charge of the Scottish legal system is like giving a toddler a box of matches.
Oh, that is brilliant. I'll give her 10 out of 10 for that. Little ditty. Let's hear that again.
In charge of the Scottish legal system is like giving a toddler a box of matches. He is grossly unqualified for the position of Justice Minister. He's never practised, trained, or studied Scots law. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't respect it. And worst of all, he doesn't have the humility to listen to the...
He's also a member of a child rapist death cult, so he's obviously got an understanding of Sharia law, which is sort of being brought in through the back door, with wee Nippy's acceptance.
The clearest example of that is his Hate Crime Act. Lawyers, judges, the Law Society, the Faculty of Advocates, charities, religious groups. The list is endless of people united across the globe in condemning this appalling piece of legislation. It is a gross infringement of our freedom of speech. The irony is, Humza Yousaf is the most hateful and race-baiting Justice Minister that Scotland has ever seen. His speech in Holyrood condemning white people for holding positions of high office was obscene. It was racist. I think it tells you everything you need to know about this man and this SNP administration. Please give us your support. Vote All for Unity on the orange ballot paper on the 6th of May.
I give this woman my support. She seems very nice. What's this woman's name? Anti-woke. Aye, I like her. So, Charlotte Morley, Scottish lawyer, anti-woke, lover of motherhood and apple pie. Why? A nice one. We try and get her on the Guerilla TV channel. It's Georgie Porgy's mob. My pal Georgie Porgy. Oh, there's Georgie Porgy there. He's on everything, Georgie Porgy. There he is there. His wee trilby and his nice wee scarf and his wee Oh, hello, Georgie Porgy, Guerilla TV. Even though he's a commie, I think Georgie Porgy being in Parliament, and I think he might actually get into the Parliament. I think because of the Guerilla TV's help, that Georgie Porgy might actually get elected, which you can thank me later for, Georgie Porgy. Everybody's starting to call you Georgie Porgy as well. Party failure opening the door to Georgie Porgy Galloway. Now they trying to shut it. Unionist party failure. Yeah. So there's a decline in all the like the Lib Lab Con party. And Georgie Porgy's coming to town. Oh dear, that's so funny. The centrepiece of the SNP manifesto released on the 15th of April turned out not to be the roadmap for the next independence referendum. Oh, and I'm going to go through each one of the manifestos, so that was coming up very soon as well. That'll be exciting. Let's see the absolute nonsense that these political parties are talking. It was offered of free stuff. Oh, it's not free. What they're trying to do is tax you to the hilt and buy their votes. And you shouldn't be. Anybody that says it's free, it's not free. They're just wanting to steal your money and waste it on whatever bribery scheme that they've got going. Their Mirage, Georgie Porgy Galloway posted in an online election address, the only kind permitted in the limited campaigning that is featured on this ghoulish COVID-era election. He is the only major personality in the non-separatist camp who is displaying self-confidence about Britain and the future and arguing with clarity, fervour, that the key to material well-being in Scotland's 5 million people lies remaining part of the UK. So I don't disagree with that. I think Georgie Porgy, obviously, I'll come to fruition in the next one, because I'll build up. As soon as this election's done, I'll start building up the new political party. So I can then take on the political non-entities head to head. Then they won't be able to run away from me. What are you guys saying? Who would you rather pump Hillary Clinton or Nicola Sturgeon or Theresa May? Oh my God, what a choice. What a choice. I'm not even going to, I don't know. I mean, dear. I don't know which female politician I find attractive. I don't know. I need to come back to that. I've not been looking at them in a sort of sexual manner. I usually, when I'm in business mode or work mode or political mode, I really calm all these sort of underlying urges down. So I am actually relatively professional. Otherwise, name. Name. Aye, name. Name is the correct answer. Have you seen No Chance? Yeah, I saw No Chances there. Let's have a look at No Chance. Tried to go on the live stream with them, but they weren't taking me the other day there. Tried to jump on, they were on the live stream. No Chance was on the live stream last night. I think the one that I saw that was quite interesting. This one.
Dropbox Business keeps your team connected, whether they're working from home.
So this is No Chance, Scottish guy.
You're about to witness what
I don't know where this guy is in the political spectrum, so I've not followed him closely enough. He can tell me where he is rather than me guessing and placing him somewhere.
Assimilation looks like. You know, that thing they used to pretend was happening, which never actually was. These people are now pushing for mass refugee and non-citizen voting.
Well, that's the Liberals, Lib Lab Con Party, the Greens, all of the main political parties are all open borders virtually and mass immigration. So if you're voting for them and you want change, including the Tories, then you're voting for the wrong parties.
A lot of the people you'll see here have publicly stated that they want Scotland to change to fit their image. You know, the complete opposite of assimilation. I'll let it speak for itself.
Please vote me as a number 1 and I pledge you I will push the independent fast. Thank you.
आप स्कॉटलैंड में मुकीम हैं तो आप आइंदा इलेक्शन में वोट दे सकते हैं 6 मई को नई स्कॉटिश पार्लियामेंट चुनने के लिए.
The Scottish Parliament election this year is the first national election that refugees can vote in.
So we already know that a lot of these individuals are not actual refugees. The people, we would have to review and find out who these are. But Scotland, the Scottish Parliament does not have the right to, even within their own territory, to put people out of the country who are not refugees, who have not applied through the legal process. But our 5 main political parties aren't interested in that. They're, because of failing to get the buttery, which I'll come on to in a second, they're just allowing anybody to come in, and it's basically a replacement now because of Nicola Sturgeon's and the 5 parties' failure to actually increase the buttery.
My power is in my votes.
Please, register to vote, don't miss out.
Slál Barezan. Wokú agataren, halbjarnakani Scotland la mangi PNG amsal des pedakat.
Refugee communities are an important part
of Scottish society.
But if you don't register to vote, you may lose out on having your say.
Assalamu alaikum.
जैसे आपको मालूम होगा या शायद सुना भी हो, स्कॉटलैंड में इलेक्शन आ रहे हैं in May.
Finally, the voices of refugees are represented.
Może wiesz, że w maju będą wybory parlamentarne w Szkocji?
Now, if they are genuine refugees, then we don't have a problem. But I suspect that this has nothing to do with refugees. I think the refugees is sort of a smokescreen for us actually doing it. We already know that Priti Patel is not deporting people who are, have failed the asylum process.
I'm a Scots Jamaican musician.
I think this guy is part African, obviously part of the African slave trade that was brought in, and part of the slave owner. I'm sure that this guy is actually part in both. That's off the top of my head. I don't know for 100% for a fact, but I'm sure I read something about this. So I don't feel guilty because, as far as I'm aware, none of my family were involved in the slave trade. And I don't feel a collective guilt for a minority or somebody that's actually been involved many years ago. I don't have a collective guilt. And we would have to then look back at who was actually selling the slaves. As far as we were led to believe that a lot of the money was made through the transport of tobacco, and there were tobacco farms and there were other sort of traders. Obviously, I would suggest that they kept the slave ownership down on the low key, but yeah, I think that's an issue.
Socialist, trade unionist, SNP councillor, housing campaigner, anti-racist guy.
And I have the power to decide the quality of life I want, and also for my future generation.
வணக்கம், எல்லோரும் நலமா? என் பெயர் மாலா. நான் Scottish National Party.
Hola, me llamo Valentina Cervera y venía a avisarte que el próximo 6 de mayo son las elecciones al Parlamento escocés.
Jambo, habari. Kama mlivyosikia.
Assalamu alaikum jamaa. Shidaga watan mayu, zamu za big gwamnat in Scotland.
Como você deve saber ou deve ter ouvido falar, as próximas eleições escocesas acontecerão em maio.
Assimilation is impossible with the floodgates opened. It's a fantasy. You know what they're doing here? There's a reason they allow refugees and...
Go back to what I was talking about last night about the globalist agenda. So this is the globalist agenda, which all 5 of the main parties are doing. That's why I'm not going to vote for any of the 5 main parties.
...want citizens to vote. It's the same reason why they've lowered the voting age and took charge of the curriculum. It's a good way of trying to remain in power indefinitely. And it will be worth it when Scotland is completely unrecognisable to what it was.
If you're an Amazon seller, has it ever happened to you when you've chosen
it's
a good
just
product that doesn't
it's
make
such a
you
shame.
money?
And this is from the... Oh, this is the one.
People have heard me.
So, this is the one I was wanting to show you. And it should be noted that Nicola Sturgeon is not a nationalist. She's already proclaimed this. So the fact that it's so deceptive and smoke and mirrors type thing, that she is just a shill for the globalist and not for the Scottish people, it's so deceptive. And you should change the name of the Scottish National Party, because you're not a national party at all. You're a SJW party and a globalist. You're a GIMP party basically.
I want to start with a message that many of you, all of you perhaps, will have heard me convey many, many times in the past, but I will never tire of conveying this message because it is an important one. It's an important one for people across our country to hear, but it is also an important one for people elsewhere in the world to hear about our country. And that message is simple. Diversity is a strength.
What's the difference between diversity and ethnic cleansing through the use of mass immigration? Well, tell me the difference. So this is obviously, you've decided that this is the policy you want to follow. I don't know if it's been in your manifesto. Now you're bringing in policies that are saying that I'm talking about the Scots involvement in the slave trade and the British colonies. So you're now bringing in anti-white racism through the BLM, which is a Marxist organisation, through the schools.
Not a weakness. We should celebrate the diversity of our country. And we should see those...
Well, we're not really diverse, and well, obviously we'll find out how diverse we are in the next manifesto, but I mean, it's always been a pretty much predominantly Celtic country with 96%, and it's pretty homogenous. Only under your watch in the globalist agenda has this been pushed. This is a deliberate policy that's been pushed by you, Nippy.
We want to come and live in our country.
Did you get permission from this? This is not just your country just to do what you want with. Did you get permission? Did you ask the other Scots if that's what they want? Or have you just decided it unilaterally?
As paying us a compliment.
Well, I don't think them coming and getting it housed in houses where the indigenous population are getting pushed to the back of the queue. I didn't see the homeless people getting housed in hotels all over the UK who are indigenous to the UK. I didn't see that happening. So there's obviously now one rule for one for another under the globalist agenda.
How mental's that? Thank you, dear immigrant, for picking our country to strengthen with your magic diversity. You could have picked any country, but you chose Scotland, and we thank you for that. Give me a break.
So I'm not against immigration. I've got a lot of friends from different ethnicities and different countries that have came to Scotland. It's not been a problem, but this is not about immigration in an actual sort of yes, this is about de facto open borders immigration policies, where people who are not refugees or have failed the refugee test are not being deported. So they basically just strolled up and said, right, we've came here and we're staying now. Not been checked, no background checks, just been allowed to push out the indigenous population, and this has been deliberately done by our political class. So, oh, here we go. This is Reform UK.
Is lockdown almost finally over? Well, the government seems insistent that domestic vaccine passports, where you have to show that you've had the COVID jabs, you go to the pub, the theatre, a cinema, is the solution. Is this the biggest change to our democratic rights we've ever seen? Well, church leaders certainly think so, saying it's unethical, that it constitutes one of the most dangerous policy proposals ever made. So does it unify us or divide us? Is it the thin end of the wedge? Are you happy to show your vaccine ID card, to have a pint in your local boozer? Or is Big Brother coming for you? This is Tice Talk. Hello. So if I told you in January last year that life as we knew it was about to come
under Richard, the UK Reform Party's managed to stay about 3%. Apparently, I think it'd probably be higher than that, maybe about 4%. So he's not slipped any from under Nigel after taking over. Obviously, Michelle Ballantyne is... well, I'm not sure if she'll retain her seat in the south. The south, I think she's somewhere in the south of Scotland, south east, I think, or southwest. But obviously, if you're a unionist, I would suggest that these are the people to vote for.
An abrupt, dramatic end. That draconian laws were about to be rushed through Parliament. The country would be subjected to crippling lockdowns. You'd have thought me, quite rightly, mad. But on March the 23rd last year, the Prime Minister announced the first of what would be, so far, 3 national lockdowns. The first lasted nearly 4 months until July. Then we had tears, and then the second lockdown in November, despite the Prime Minister vowing to do everything in his power to avoid these measures. There were light restrictions or tight restrictions over Christmas because we were promised freedom by Easter, after the vulnerable and the elderly had been vaccinated by mid to late February. Doesn't seem to have happened, does it? And then a third national lockdown started at the beginning of January and is only just being eased now, long after Easter is a distant memory. So is the end finally in sight? But why have vaccine passports risen to the top of the agenda despite the Prime Minister and senior cabinet members repeatedly saying, no, this is not the British way? And are we heading for a fourth national lockdown? These are the $1 million.
Is this channel set up for Super Chat yet? Terry Ann, they're not giving me the... Come on, the Guerillas. They're not giving me monetization. I passed 2 stages of the monetization, but they just say it's under review. So they're not giving us any monetization for the Super Chats yet. To answer your question, this has been for months, so they're obviously deliberately trying to just muck about with me, basically. But we've got over 1,000 subscribers. We've had 4,000 hours watched. We've been accepted by AdSense, and we're just waiting to be reviewed. So there are obviously people in the background who the cancel culture have obviously. You obviously saw that Peter Adam Smith tried to get me cancelled on Twitter and YouTube after him trying to verbally bully me and calling me nasty names like racist and things like that when I was trying to conduct an interview. So he's been on the background, dude, like Owen Jones and her pal. They're actively trying to shut down the Guerilla TV channel. We will soon have our own. Well, we've got the website. Our website's up, so it's www.guerillatvchannel.com. You can go on there. You can subscribe on there. We'll have our own process set up so they can't touch us again. And we'll allow other, obviously, channels. We won't, whether it be left, centre or right, we'll allow other channels on the Guerilla TV channel, and it should be fantastic. It'll be like YouTube was. Should set up a PayPal. The PayPal's there, Monty. Let me just get it. You can actually go into the descriptions. Let me just show you. So if you go into your channel, and let's check this one out. So if you just go down here, and if you just go into the descriptions, you can see if you want to go into any of the different things. I've still got to put up Odyssey. I'll go on Odyssey and get other ones in as well. But you can get me on any of these. And that's the PayPal there. PayPal at Guerilla TV channel if you wanted to donate. We're on Subscribestar, but so even Subscribestar are being funny with us, so they're not allowing us to raise money as well. So we'll get that all sorted out. That'll all be changed as well. Obviously, we'll put in a lot of content and a lot of stuff for these as well. So for the YouTube who are obviously making money off us. So I hope that answers your question there, buddy. Okay, all sorted. Having a separate website is all good. The amount of money that has been spent on getting a better sound for you guys. I'm getting the shield so that there's no hissing there as well. I'm getting absolutely everything that's there, and the amount of money that's been spent, and this is ridiculous. But I'm not spending any money on myself. All the money is going to actually professionalise the service. The Guerilla TV channel is a limited company, so all the money will go through the Guerilla TV channel to buy the things to make sure that we're not getting silenced, make sure that they can't bully us, and to improve the quality of service. Just now I know that this can be improved more, and I'm more than happy to do that. Obviously we've improved the sound, we've got a good camera just now on it. We'll get a better camera on it, so we'll just improve. We'll just keep improving the thing. The blue screen will be behind us, so we'll change the way that the whole concept of the videos are as well. So it'll get even better over a period of time. Come on, the Guerillas, mate. This is the channel set up for Super Chat. No, to answer that name, Adolf. So let me go on here. These are the sort of the stuff that I'm looking at. So going, this is no chance. I don't know what no chances politics are, to be brutally honest with you. I was having listened to them last night, but I think they're pretty sound, and I think people are starting to wake up to the globalist agenda. But I think they're doing it too slow. So they're like jumping from, we won't vote for the SNP, but we'll vote for Labour, when it's all of them that's the problem. Unless you move away from that and get out your habit of voting for the Lib Lab Con Party, the SNP and the Greens, and move to something like the Scottish Libertarian Party or the UK Reform Party, only when you break that habit, and that'll increase the actual votes that they're having, it'll reduce them, and then they'll look like the ones that are moving ahead, which will then bring on more people will start to switch as well and get away from the Lib Lab Con, the SNP and the Greens. They collectively are the problem. Collectively, they're the problem. Where they are in the political spectrum, they're globalist agendas, they're the problem. And until you break it, there's no point in saying, I want Hums are useless out, so I'm going to vote for the Labour Party, who are just as bad as the SNP. You have to break the habit at some point, and you have to say, no, screw them all. So, because you'll just keep getting bad politicians, going from Labour to SNP to Conservatives, and you're still going to keep the same people in power, and nothing will change. Only when you change your vote will that actually happen. Oh my God, Cranky has it. Yeah, so here we go. Right, here we go. What have we got? Starship Troopers. I like that. I say that he's great. The critical drinker. If you're not signed up, he's yeah. I think we've done that. That was a great interview. That Sophie is very subtle in her interview skill, and it was very interesting. That was nearly as good as the Andrew Neil project as well. I mean, Nicola Sturgeon is a disaster of a First Minister. A disaster. She's on. I mean, she keeps trotting out the independence thing to keep people on the hook. But if you look at her domestic issues, she's been a disaster. Nobody would vote for her if they forget the independence and unionist arguments. If you were only to look at Nicola Sturgeon on her domestic Scottish policies, she would be out on her ass without a shadow of a doubt. Nobody would vote for what she's done over the last period of time that she's been in power. Nobody. Georgie Porgy, let's get into Georgie Porgy. So this woman, Charlotte Morley is one to watch, I think, on the for the unity thing. She seems to be quite an intelligent woman, so I would keep your eye out for her. Don't forget, even if they're in a bad party and the person's actually intelligent, you can all for unity. I wouldn't be voting for Georgie Porgy, the communist, but this woman seems to be know her stuff, so I would probably vote for Charlotte if I was in that area. And I wanted to give that the vote, but again, would I vote for Charlotte over the Scottish Libertarian Party? Probably not, even though she's sound, Scottish lawyer, anti-woke, lover of motherhood, apple pie, all good, but I would like to see her in a Libertarian Party and doing libertarian things. She could probably be in the Family Party. She would probably be just as accepted in the Family Party as well, although I don't think that she's probably in a better party that's going to actually potentially get her elected in this one. She may get elected on the regional list. I don't know where she is in the regional list. In Lothian. She's number one, I think. So I think that's quite a good person to have as your number one. So all for unity in the Lothian area. Not bad, but you've still got, there's Derek Whitten for Richard Lucas for the Family Party. Greens, I forget the Greens. You know, no, I'm getting elected. Labour Party, Liberals, Libertarian. So Tam Laird obviously could well get elected, maybe Cameron Patterson as well. So there's a good chance that Tam Laird could get elected if enough people vote for that as well. There's a guy, number 2 in the Women's Equality Party. The Social Democrats, Alistair Young, UKIP, Donald Mackay. So quite interesting there. So let's go into the talk of the day. So yeah, she's not bad, not bad. One to watch. Something I was wanting to show you guys, I knew it was on here somewhere, but I think it's going to take a bit of finding. Kushner. Imagine the outrage if white bashing Oxford University ran a course called Dismantling Blackness or allowing Dismantling Jewishness. And so Oxford University are putting a course called Dismantling Whiteness, Critical White Theology. Why am we paying for this? Why is this getting paid for? There you go, Scottish Libertarians for the 6, beautiful symbol the Scottish Libertarian Party have got. There's absolutely dum-dum here from the Greens.
Policies for a fair and green recovery, nearly all of which we can implement under the current constitutional arrangement. We don't need to wait for independence. We can start implementing these now. Upgrading our railways, warm homes, revisiting how education works in Scotland.
Yeah, I've read through your manifesto. It's 96 pages long.
I can't wait to go through that one.
You're halfway through it, 50 pages into it, before you get to the wafer-thin 2-page section on independence. I had to read stuff about protecting the Scottish mountain hare.
You can see where the priorities are, can you? You can see what a waste of time these characters are going to be.
The section on independence. What's all that about? How important this is independence?
I can't wait to read it. It's going to be an absolute shit show, this manifesto.
Independence is just one piece of the puzzle for tackling climate change and
so even if we had zero emissions in Scotland, the UK, we're still not going to tackle climate change unless China, India and the US start to actually do more on the renewable fronts. So I'm not saying it's a waste of time or we shouldn't actually try to move to a non-carbon economy, but even if we did, and we did it unilaterally, it's still not going to make any difference. So what would the point in the Green Party be if Scotland had zero emissions? And we planted more trees. What else could we do? So we couldn't do anything else. So what would the actual party? Then we would have to look at what the Green Party were and the underlying Marxist agenda, which is the Green Party. That hasn't worked anywhere.
And greener Scotland. Yes, of course we think independence would help us to do that, but it is only part of it, and nearly everything we need to do to recover from the pandemic, to create jobs, to reduce emissions and make Scotland a really great place to live, we can start doing right away. We don't need to wait.
Okay, so let's go back to my vote then. If I am that environmentally concerned voter who on balance is a unionist, how can you count my vote as a pro-independence vote? There must be a lot of people in that.
But I would suspect it would have to be a second referendum. And then I noticed that they were already commenting on what I commented about.
Category. How can you form a pro...
which was the fact if the SNP lose a second referendum, how damaging that's going to be to the politics. Because then people are going to start looking at their domestic record under Wee Nippy.
When a large chunk of your support may well prefer the union.
There's no talk of any sort of alliance. Let's be really clear. This manifesto is a
manifesto. But hang on, sorry, Lawrence. The SNP will use your
manifesto for independence.
The SNP will use your bloc to argue.
Right, so this woman doesn't want to, she seems a bit lukewarm on independence. Obviously, people, my baby gorillas were calling it the Greens the tranny party.
That there is a pro-independence majority in the Holyrood Parliament should the maths work that way for them. What I'm asking you is, if many of your supporters actually on balance don't support independence, they're voting you on environmental they're voting for you on environmental concerns, is it not slightly disingenuous to lend their votes to that pro-independence argument?
As I say, this isn't a manifesto for independence, it's a manifesto to ask.
Right, so it's not a manifesto for independence, there you go. Sturgeon insists SNP manifesto designed to unite Scotland. Oh dear. The Scottish Libertarian Party opposed the hate crime bill from the start, warning of the dire consequences of it becoming law. Now the bill is law and needs to be scrapped. So that's another reason to vote for the Scottish Libertarian Party. No one is safe from its pernicious clutches. So, yep, he actually says all white lives matter before correcting himself. Oh my goodness. So obviously we all know Humza Yousaf is an anti-white racist, just obviously like the dismantling of whiteness down at the Cambridge University.
I'm depressed about it, frankly. Utterly, shameful that a mural to Andrew Watson, the person considered to be...
Now, I don't know if this was vandalised, because I think Andrew Watson's wearing a Celtic strip, so obviously there might be that element for it being vandalised, but I don't think just for Andrew Watson mural being vandalised is what actually probably happened. Also, promoting BLM, which is a Marxist organisation.
The first ever black player that played for an international...
He's all about race, isn't he? He is a racist. He never stops talking about race. Oh, race, I want more blah 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 and want this. When's there going to be a white mayor of Islamabad or Pashtun? When's there going to be the first white Prime Minister of Pakistan? When's that going to happen? Humza Yousaf.
Team widely considered to be the first.
Is there a white player in the Pakistani cricket?
And that's your right. We were meant to do our broadcast.
Yeah, this guy actually is a racist. People throw. I mean, obviously they were throwing about words about me, but this guy is an actual racist. This guy could be a skinhead. There's no difference between him and somebody who's a white racist.
Our photo opportunities in front of that mural, but it's been defaced with the...
Well, you've brought in laws that are completely racist. You've made a racist speech in the Parliament. It's you that's the racist, pal.
All white matters.
All white matters. All white lives matter. He was about to say there, obviously, because he can't help himself.
All lives matter.
So he's now saying that all lives matter is a far right scenario there. So he's basically saying that all lives don't matter.
A slogan that we've seen that's been used by often those in the far right.
He keeps talking about the far right, this fictional far right, but he's part of a child rapist death cult that has sex slaves and has sex with children. That I've not heard him call out these things that are happening to Christian, Hindu and Sikh children in Pakistan. And yet, Mr. Khan, the Pakistan president, wants us to bring in laws, blasphemy laws in the UK. He maybe wants to get a grip in his own country. There's almost nearly like civil war in Pakistan with Islamofascists. Now, millions of people marching. What's happened in France?
To delegitimise the Black Lives Matter movement.
Well, the Black Lives Matter was run by communists who have now self-ingratiated themselves and bought millions of pounds worth of property. That's how much they were communists. So don't vote for Humza Yousaf.
And that to me is utterly depressing, and it just speaks again.
And you being in Parliament is utterly depressing.
To the fact that we've still got racism here in Scotland sometimes.
Yeah, it's coming from you. It's coming from you, you absolute clown.
I'm depressed, and that to me is utterly depressing, and it just speaks again to the fact that we've still got racism here in Scotland. Sometimes we think that racism isn't an issue here in Scotland, or not much of an issue as it is in other parts of the UK, but we still have problems with racism.
Yeah, it's coming from you in your racist speech. You absolute clown. So there you go. That just pops up as well. Pakistan PM urges West to make insulting Prophet, the child rapist, Prophet Muhammad, a criminal offence. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? Maybe you should want to get your own house in order. This is quite funny as well.
Yeah. Well, I've been here all 4 nights. I'm just staying here today with soup for my family.
And then they have cans of soup. And they throw the cans of soup. That's better than a brick because you can't throw a brick, it's too heavy. But a can of soup, you can really put some power into that, right? And if it hits you, that's worse than a brick because it's got force. It's the perfect size. It's like made perfect. And when they get caught, they say, no, this is just soup for my family.
And we're just, watching all of this unfold. It's very unfortunate.
You're not planning on using that, are you? Throwing it at the police?
Like I said, it's for my family.
Literally for your family. Yeah. All right.
And then they...
Oh, dear. Andrew Marr interview. Here we go. Andrew Mann's interview with Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster was branded a car crash by members of the public. BBC viewers took to social media to trash the performance of Labour Party's Rachel Reeves as she urged for the reform of lobbying rules in light of David Cameron's Grenfell scandal, where he obviously just phones up the members of the cabinet and says we need X and Y and Z for this. I think it was a Jewish guy who was setting up some sort of lending scheme that wasn't beneficial to the government. One social media urged comment Rachel Reeves on Marr using a car crash interview thinks if I can keep talking I won't get another question. I can't answer. Very amusing. Oh dear. Oh, that's so funny. But I'll let you read the rest of that yourselves. Oh, so we've got why is he still here? So Mohammed Rashid is 24 but falsely told the authorities he was a child so he could stay in the UK. So why is he not being deported now? Yeah, because obviously the globalist Conservative Party have already signed us up for this. He was caught yesterday by a paedophile hunting team when he was turned up to meet a 14-year-old girl for sexual activities after grooming her online. If Churchill was British, if Churchill and the British did not do what they did, we would have lost our freedom, which I think we're losing just now anyway. Sturgeon on Sophie Ridge saying funding for the NHS up to 2026 will increase dependent on the Barnett formula. Thought you wanted independence by then, Nicola Sturgeon. Full interview of the usual lies and deflections, yeah. And that's all she does. Justice to get even softer under the SNP. Justice Minister said to get even softer. My God, man. Both votes thank for that. I think we've covered that right away. So let's go on to what we're talking about. What are you guys saying? Covering up your comments. Alex, Belfield court case tomorrow has been put back. For goodness sake, that's guys suffering. Of course they are. Dirty bastardos. Come on, Trump, buy Scotland, my man. Scotland is white country, therefore white lives should matter. Yeah, well, it wasn't even, I think it was all lives matter. It wasn't even, it was only Hamza Yusuf as usual being racist. It wasn't all lives matter encompasses black lives. So I don't like using black as well, and people of African origin lives matter as well, because it says all in the name. But Hamza Useless has got to say it's far right because he is a gimp, because he's a globalist Islamo-Marxist like Sarwar, a couple of gimps. Hamza the Beater, he's got a pair of knickers on under his trousers. Liberty without law is not freedom, it's anarchy. Point, who's her? Guerilla should have gone to Govan and pumped. Hank, how you doing? How you doing? Dave's a Silverback. Should set up a GoFundMe. There is a GoFundMe. If you just go on to Google, let's go for the Google. Guerilla TV channel. So there is one here. It's like GoFundMe. So it is here. That's us here. £2 so far. You can actually go in if you want to set up this. So we're going to set up the Guerilla News, TV News. We'll get some excellent stuff coming up. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. And so you can actually go in and actually donate if you wish. So let's go to what the topic of the conversation. Let's get rid of wee Nippy out of the thing. So I'll let you know I'm very much pro gay rights, although I'm 100% heterosexual, that I'm very much pro gay rights, and I believe in opportunities, but there seems to have been quite a disproportionate number of gay people in the Scottish Parliament, which is not bad in itself, but these women didn't seem to be producing any children. Obviously, Ruthie Baby Davison produced one child, but I think she's married to another woman, and I don't know if the other woman's produced children. If the Scottish population is not producing 3 or more children per woman, then we've got a falling birth rate. So here's the birth rate in Scotland between 1991 and 2019. So you can see it's 13.2%, and it just falls down. It's just a continuing decline. It went back up a bit again in 2008. And now at 2019 it's down from 13.2 all the way down to 9.1. So Nicola Sturgeon and Alex Salmond has managed. Not only are we importing more people, we've also can't reproduce in by ourselves. We're not going out on dates. We're not having strong relationships. We're not getting people where we actually. We've now empowered women to actually take jobs, so that's now lessening men's opportunities in the workplace. If women do get pregnant, then they've got the jobs, so the guy might not have the job. So how are they going to work that in? By actually, and I'm not for female empowerment, I'm not for not gay, but there is now practical situations that happen when you empower women. So if these women do get pregnant, they have to leave their job. They're required to get pregnant a few times to actually make sure that we haven't got this situation with a declining birth rate. And wee Nippy's only solution is to import a whole different culture, whole different ways of life into the country to basically replace us. So not only can she, obviously not producing any children herself and being an alleged lesbian, with Ruth Davison obviously producing only one child, being an alleged lesbian. Moby from the Greens I think is gay as well. I think he's not produced any children. I don't know about wee Willie Rennie. Willie Rennie, and obviously we had Ruth Davison, who produced one child, and Kezia Dugdale from the Labour Party obviously as well. I don't think she's had any kids. Now I'm all for I think Ruth Davis would make a fantastic mother. I don't have any problem with gay people actually having children, but they're not actually doing it. And I'm just concerned if there's a connection between the amount of homosexuals and the declining birth rate in the Scottish Parliament, a disproportionate number of homosexuals, And also, we've got other MPs like, and this is me having a wee dig at Michelle Ballantyne, which I've not had a dig at. Scottish Tory MSP tells the poor to stop having children. We need to have more children. If they're poor, it's an irrelevance. Scottish Tory Michelle Ballantyne has told the poor to stop having children. The outrageous comment in the middle of a Holyrood debate on the ending of austerity, poverty and inequality visibly shocked other MSPs in the Parliament yesterday. Even her own Tory colleagues seemed to have taken aback by the brutal bluntness of their own party's welfare spokesman. I think what she was meaning was if you couldn't afford to bring them up, you shouldn't be having children. But to be honest with you, we require all the children we can get. We require to be going on dates. And I think rather than actually looking at the children part, we have to construct better relationships, go actually out on dates, get to know each other. Another thing is that one of the things I probably didn't understand is that 80% of women are attracted to the top 10% of guys. So these guys must be a hell of an active. I don't think it can be only that, because we would be in real queer street, but that was a very interesting statistic, that all these women are only attracted to a certain group of individuals. I don't know how you get in this group. I don't know what factors that a woman would look at to actually look at this group to say, well, this guy's obviously top 10. I'm not quite sure what he would have to encompass to be in that top 10 or top 20%. So there's women who are below average, with obviously the medium below average, may reject somebody on their sort of level, whatever that level is and whatever reason that is. The woman being cherry. But the establishment of strong families, which we already know the Black Lives Matter, homes are useless unless it's obviously Islamo marriage, are wanting to undermine. They're wanting to undermine the British state. And obviously I think Michelle was talking about if you can't afford them, you shouldn't be having kids. I would disagree. I think we really need to have a lot more sex, and we have to go out on dates, but predominantly dates and get to know people. I think romance definitely has to come back, and that we have to establish strong relationships, and I think that's pretty important. I think not enough people are talking about dates, because I think dating is the first step to establishing a strong relationship. Liberty City Grand from the Auto Brilliant game. Yeah, liberty without law is not free, it's anarchy. Yeah, that's right. Oh my God, McCranky has had it. So, I mean, obviously, what surprised MSPs was when it emerged later on that Ballantyne had benefited from tax credits for all 6 of her children because she'd been on a low wage. During her speech, the Tory said she was proud of reforms brought in by the government in Westminster. Community Secretary Aileen Campbell intervened to ask if she was proud. Now, the Family Party are doing some good stuff and saying the right things about the family. I would suggest that you want to maybe take a step back and look at women's relationships. I mean, obviously, there's talking about rape, and we already know that feminism has been undermining relationships between men and women, very much hostile to, I don't think all women are this new breed of men-hating feminists. But obviously being disparaging to, and it's not wanting men to actually even go out on dates. And it's important that for strong, stable relationships and strong families that this actually happens. And we have to crack down on these men-hating, usually large part of lesbian feminists, like Nicola Sturgeon allegedly, but she obviously what she's done is men-hating laws that blame men, and it's not like an equal. She wants like people treated separately, and that's what she thinks is equality, not that everybody should be treated the same. So the Tories replied the 2-child limit is about fairness. No, you shouldn't have a 2-child. We need to have at least 3 children each, at least. It's fair that people on benefits can't have as many children as they like. Well, we should be just having, whoever's having the children, we should be supporting them to have the children. We shouldn't be limiting them. We've already seen the falling graph here. And obviously your policies, both from Nicola Sturgeon and the Tories, have been causing this to happen. I'm not interested in the Lib Lab Con Party, the SNP, telling us how many children we should be having. Fury as MSP defends two-child cap. Well, I would suggest that this is wrong, and the Family Party are correct in this issue, and we should be actually trying to get have more children and going out in dates. I'm nearly 50. I've not had any children as far as I'm aware. But with the feminists, the BLM and the Marxists are trying to undermine the family unit, and that's what we have to, and that probably that Oxford course undermining whiteness is going to be part of that overall agenda to destroy the family unit and destroy society as a whole. SNP MSP Tom Arthur launched a vicious attack on Ballantyne, describing her speech as 6 minutes of pompous Victorian moralising that would have better suited the pages of a Dickens novel. So I actually agree with Mr. Arthur here. He added, any suggestion that poverty should be a barrier to have a family, that people who are poor are not entitled to more than 2 children. We need to have more than 2 children even if you are poor. We need to have more sex. We need to have strong relationships, have more sex and stable relationships that are going to produce monogamy. Monogamy, obviously, the bedrock of any stable relationship, and produce, or we could actually even go for polygamy, but anything to increase the birth rate. Seems to work quite well in other countries, other religions as well. So, I mean, that's really the situation we've got. I don't know what you guys are saying to him. Nothing, apparently. Oh, my goodness, I didn't even scroll down there. Having left the EU, the frogs want to charge the official language of the EU to French. Is it? Have as much white Scottish children as possible, because if you don't, we're getting out bread soon. Sow your wild oats, my man. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the situation. So, but not only that, we're also getting people coming in and raping women as well. So that's it's like a triple whammy. We've got the left saying, "Oh, we're going to try and destroy the family unit." We've got the Islamists who are trying to rape non-Muslims and try and destroy the women's lives as well. So I mean, it's like a triple whammy. It's actually happening just now to women in Scotland, and we're not. The women are not going out in dates. They're getting fed through this men are oppressing you nonsense, while at the same time taking jobs. So the men can get forward. When the women take time off to have the children, then because they've been in the positions, that just screws up the whole scenario. Unless you're like Nicola Sturgeon, who's not had any children, who's actually affecting the bottom line here of the birth defects. So what parties are going to actually do something positive? And I only see the Family Party, who have actually said something positive about increasing help for families. And as I said, the Family Party are not the people to vote for, not from the fact that they're not sound on policy. They're just not going to get very far as a political entity under the guise of being called the Family Party. What they're saying in policy is correct, but they need to join and need to get more momentum and change the name from Family Party, and just like the Christians need to join in with them and change the name to something more dynamic. They need to progress on that. They're not in the right stage just now to make a political insight, I don't think. And I think they'll be getting hundreds of votes rather than thousands. So, all very interesting, but I hope I covered that. I don't think any of the other parties, the Lib Lab Con Party, I mean, obviously, this is all, they're trying to turn the police gay as well. Biological men self-identify as female. So So they're all complaining about Humza useless because he's absolutely crazy. Liverpool councillor apologises for calling Prince Philip fascist piece of inbred shit. No, that's nice. So Sarah Morton, councillor for the Labour Party, and that's just about typical and sums up what's actually happened, what's PJW saying. Dating apps. Lockdown has accelerated our social isolation, but apps implemented it. No one talks to each other in bars anymore. My friend Laura pointed out, pre-COVID I could go to a bar with 6 mates. Not one of us would have any guy talk to us because we were there in real life. One bloke looked positively terrified when my friend... Well, guys are terrified because of the feminists, how women talk to men now, and how they interact, and how much the things are stacked against men in any interaction. So that's why men are, it's not that they're terrified, they just don't want to, because they already know that through the feminism, through Nicola Sturgeon obviously being an alleged lesbian, that she's stacked the books in favour of women in feminism, while at the same time not having any children. One bloke looked positively terrified when my friend started a conversation with them. Yeah, I've had women screaming at me and all sorts. I mean, really shocking for just actually having a chat with them, and the way that they've actually behaved can be shocking. Now, this is a minority of women. I'm not saying this is even a majority, or this is a very small minority I've had bad interactions with, but it does happen. I'm sure, like women do with men as well. I don't think it's one way. Those of us who lived in a pre-app world, yeah, women. So if I join with some women, so two of us join with each other, and I say we both liked each other, and I say the actual transaction, actually going on a date, to actually get it from, yeah, we both like each other, to let's go out on a date to actually get to know each other. Let's go for dinner. I don't even mind paying for dinner. Let's go for dinner so I can spend some time with you and we can actually see if we're compatible. A lot of women can't get it from, yeah, okay, we both like each other, to actually the next stage of actually going and having a chat. I don't see the point. There's no point in saying I like you and you like me in a dating app if you're not actually wanting to take it to the next stage. Pointless. You might as well not bother saying that. Unless you're actively wanting to go out on a date to actually spend time. But it doesn't even matter what the date is. It could be anything that you're interacting just to get to know each other. It doesn't have to be just dinner, but obviously dinner, the first one's probably the easiest. Those of us who lived in a pre-app world remember how much harder it used to be a member of the opposite sex. As Harry puts it, everything was human with feelings rather than an avatar to be ghosted. Yeah, so that's it. So what Paul's basically talking about there is the fact that you're not actually doing anything. There's no, okay, we both I like you, I think you're really nice, would you like to go out and go out for dinner? And then nothing happens, and they may even say I like you, but nothing happens. So we really have to start looking at what that initial interaction is, and how we actually get it from, yeah, okay, let's do that, to actually let's go out together and let's actually start to get to know each other, find out if something's compatible. Who goes out for dinner? I know. Well, what do you do then? What do you do? Smoke signals? What do you do to actually then go from I like you, you like me? So usually what happens is you end up sleeping with the person first, and then nothing then happens after that. It goes too fast, and the run-in time is not long enough to get to know the person. So yeah, going for dinner is probably the best way. That I agree. You actually said it right. Who goes out for dinner? I'm saying that's a problem. I'm saying that the fact that you don't go out for dinner is what, as we used to, is the issue, because you don't get to actually then spend time and get to know the person before anything else happens. And you sometimes only go out for one day, and there has to be a series of days to actually go and actually find out about the person. Scotland has only fresh air left. It will only get worse, yeah. And there has to be a break in this as well. People have to be conscious to actually overturn what is actually happening, because there is an attack on men and women's relationships and just now going on, and you should understand this. It's reflected in the statistics in the declining birth rate, which is an overall attack on Scotland and the way that we actually, our society as it is, and how we want it to be in the future, unlike what we Nippy wants it to be. Guys, I hope that I've spoken enough there. I hope we've had a good chat there. I've enjoyed myself. Quite interesting though, quite interesting. So I'm going to love you and leave you usually as just pump them. Leave them, yeah, I know, but that's not the right. I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's the attitude. I think that has been the way, but I think that's wrong, and I think we have to now change that, because I think the hump and dumping stuff and that type of stuff is not the way forward. I think there has to be maturity in the relationship, and that's the only way you can get it. But I do agree that has been the just usually pump them and leave them dazed and confused. I'm like, yes. Guys, I love my baby gorillas.